So I recently saw this post on Pinterest that I loved so much, and I wanted to read it to you before starting today's topic because I think it really highlights a lot of what I want to talk about. So it says, you need to be slow maxing. You need to be reading long fat books. You need to be making 48-hour chocolate chip cookies. You need to spend hours watching wildlife. You need to spend 15 plus minutes making your coffee. You need to breathe in and breathe out. You need to be slow. I know for so many of us, it's very difficult to focus on one thing at a time, and something that pregnancy has kind of forced me to do is to stop multitasking because it's just too much. It's very overwhelming in my current state, and it's got me thinking that actually this is how I should be living my life all the time, doing one thing at a time and not rushing that one thing as I'm doing it. There's certainly a temptation to seek stimulation from multiple sources at the same time, but I think that that sort of constant stimulation, at least for me, has contributed to increased anxiety and also an inability to do deep, focused, truly productive work. So here are the 4 mantras that have been helping me lately with stopping the multitasking, stopping the constant stimulation, and actually being grounded and focused on whatever it is I'm doing, whether it's work or play or rest. Mantra number 1 is I can only take care of one task at a time. I know that sometimes we've got to-do lists full of a lot of things that we have to get through, and when I know that I have a lot on my plate, I wake up in the morning and I just can't seem to get started on anything because it all feels so overwhelming, you know, like when there's too much to do, so you don't do anything at all. I find that that does happen to me, and in those moments, I tell myself I can only do one thing at a time. Yes, I might have this super long to-do list, but no matter how hard I try, I'm not going to be able to do all of these things at once. So if I can just focus on one task to start, that will already be really, really wonderful for getting the ball rolling. And once I do that one task, then I can move on to the next one and the next one. It doesn't have to be like this crazy rush, just one thing at a time. I don't want to get stuck in that debilitating feeling of, oh, I have way too much to do. I want to just pick something and get started with it. Also, when I feel like there's a lot of things on my mind, I find it really helpful to pull out the notes app on my phone and do just like a quick brain dump where I write down all of the things that are stressing me out, all of the tasks that I need to do. And that provides me with a little bit of relief because now it's not all just up here, you know, pressing on me. It's actually physically in front of me, and I know I'm not going to forget anything because I've written it all down, and then I can just pick one thing from that list and get started so that I can start to ease that overwhelm one task at a time. Mantra number 2 is most things can wait. Most things are not super urgent. They don't need to be addressed immediately, so there's no need to be rushing all the time and getting yourself worked up over everything that comes up throughout your day. Slowing down and focusing on my surroundings and really grounding myself in the moment that I'm currently present in has done wonders for my mental health. I don't know if you have come across these videos online, but I've been scrolling through Instagram before and I come across a reel where a person will kind of guide you through this process where they'll say, you know, point 5 things out in your environment that are red, and then they'll tell you to wiggle your toes or something, and then they'll ask you to focus on another thing. I'm not doing it justice with my explanation, but essentially the point is to tap into all 5 of your senses and ground yourself in the present moment. And I find that that's helpful for me when I'm starting to get too much in my head about all of the things that need to be done. And I believe I touched on this briefly in my dopamine menu video, but because we are almost always with our phones, or our phones are near us or around us, it can create an expectation that when we receive an email or a text message or a phone call, we can just respond right away because we're on our phones anyway. But that does not have to be the case. And when you think about a time before the modern cell phone, it was very, very normal to have to wait for a response. And I think that that's how it should be even now, even with our new culture of smartphones. I think that it's normal to not feel like you have to respond to everybody immediately and to take your time when you need to. Mantra number 3 is a popular one, and it is slow and steady wins the race. And this is very important, even though it's very cliche, but I have to remind myself that even if I spread myself super thin for a while, doing all of the things and being super productive, and getting myself to a point of burnout, then I will be taken out for a little while afterwards because I've now exhausted myself. So what is the point of wearing yourself out, burning out, and then not being able to do any kind of work because you feel so exhausted afterwards, when you can just spread that work out in a reasonable manner over a longer period of time so that you don't burn out and you can remain consistently productive. It's kind of like that meme or joke that dads will often brag about waking up at 5 a.m., but then they'll be napping on the couch by noon. It's very, very similar to that, I think, because no matter what, your mind and body still need rest. So I think prioritizing that is not going to hinder your productivity. In fact, it's going to improve it because you have to put your health first. Now, this isn't to say that you shouldn't challenge yourself or that you should just be taking it easy all the time, but I think that intuitively we know when we need rest and when we need to push ourselves a little bit to, reach our goals and to work hard. I think we know where that balance is, but we are not always super honest with ourselves in both cases. We're not super honest with ourselves when we need to work harder, and we're not honest with ourselves when we need to rest. So I think really tuning into that intuition that you have and finding that good balance is going to be so, so important. Mantra number 4 is people and projects deserve my undivided attention. Whether you're working on a YouTube video or grabbing dinner with a friend and trying to have a conversation, you can't connect with a person or a project in a meaningful way if you're distracted the entire time. And if your mind is always elsewhere, if it's never able to be present in the moment of what you're doing, I think that that's going to be very, very not only very exhausting over time, but also it is such a shame because then you're never truly living in the present moment. You're constantly somewhere else. You're either in the past or you're in the future, or you've got other things going on internally, so you're never actually fully experiencing the present moment. And I think that that's a really sad way to live life, and one of the biggest reasons that I don't want to multitask as much as I have in the past. But let me know what your thoughts are on multitasking in the comments below. Do you think that it helps your productivity? Does it hinder your productivity? Is there a time and a place for multitasking, or is it just kind of bad across the board? Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I will see you very, very soon with a brand new one. But in the meantime, here is another video that YouTube thinks you might want to watch next.